Every day, you tell a website what you're thinking, what you're worried about, what you're planning, what you're afraid of. You tell it where you're going, what you're buying, who you're talking to, what time you wake up, and sometimes, what keeps you awake at night. The strange part? Most people don't think twice about it because they aren't being forced. They aren't being hacked. They're volunteering the information, search by search, click by click, day after day. For more than 2 decades, one company quietly collected more information about humanity than any organization in history. Not through surveillance cameras, not through secret agents, not through stolen files, but because billions of people willingly handed it over. And the result was something unprecedented. A digital system that knew where you were, what you wanted, what you believed, and in some cases, what you might do next. This is the story of the website that knew everything about you. The story begins long before smartphones, long before social media, long before most people even trusted the internet. In the late 1990s, the web was growing at an incredible pace. Millions of new pages appeared every year. But there was a problem. Finding information was difficult. Search engines existed, but they weren't very good. Most simply counted how many times a word appeared on a page. That meant search results were often filled with spam, irrelevant websites, and low-quality information. At Stanford University, 2 graduate students believed they could do better. Larry Page and Sergey Brin. They weren't trying to build one of the most powerful companies in history. They were simply trying to solve a problem. How do you organize the internet? Their idea seemed surprisingly simple. Instead of only analyzing words on a page, what if you looked at links? If many websites linked to a page, perhaps that page was important. It was similar to academic research. A scientific paper becomes influential when other researchers cite it. Page and Brin believed websites worked the same way. The more references a page received, the more valuable it probably was. That idea became the foundation of Google. And almost immediately, it worked. Search results were dramatically better than competitors. People found answers faster. Users returned again and again. Word spread quickly. And what started as a university research project soon became one of the fastest-growing technology companies on Earth. But at the time, almost nobody realized what had really been created. Because Google wasn't just building a search engine. It was building the world's largest collection of human curiosity. Every search represented a question, a desire, a concern, a problem someone wanted solved. And every day, millions of people were feeding that system. At first, Google's success seemed almost magical. You typed a question, and somehow, the answer appeared. Fast, accurate, simple. Compared to other search engines of the era, it felt revolutionary. Users loved it. Investors loved it. Advertisers soon loved it even more. Because Google discovered something incredibly valuable. People reveal their intentions through search. A person searching for best running shoes is probably interested in buying shoes. Someone searching for cheap flights to Paris may be planning a trip. A search query often reveals what a person wants before they take action. And that information is extremely valuable. For the first time in history, advertisers could reach people precisely when they were interested in something. Not days later, not weeks later, at the exact moment they were looking for it. The business model was brilliant. Google helped users find information. Advertisers reached potential customers, and Google sat in the middle connecting both sides. Revenue exploded. The company grew rapidly. New offices opened. New employees arrived. And Google's influence expanded far beyond search. Because once a company controls how people find information, the next question becomes obvious. What else can it help them do? The answer would transform Google from a search engine into something much larger. A company that would eventually touch nearly every part of modern digital life. Then came Gmail. And this is where the story becomes much more interesting. Because search tells you what someone is looking for, but email tells you something else entirely. It reveals who they are communicating with. In 2004, Google launched Gmail. At first, it looked like just another email service, but compared to competitors, it felt almost unbelievable. While most email providers offered tiny amounts of storage, Google offered gigabytes. Users could keep years of messages, photos, attachments, conversations, everything. People rushed to sign up, and for good reason. Gmail was faster, cleaner, more reliable. It quickly became one of the most popular email platforms in the world. But behind the convenience, something important was happening. Every email contains information: who sent it, who received it, when it was sent, what it discussed, what files were attached, the relationships between people, the topics they cared about, the events they planned, the businesses they interacted with. For many users, email became a digital record of their lives. Birthdays, job applications, travel plans, receipts, family conversations, medical appointments, important memories. Over time, years of personal history accumulated inside Gmail accounts. Google repeatedly stated that protecting user information was a priority. And yet, the scale of information flowing through Gmail was unprecedented. No organization in history had ever managed communication systems for so many people at once. Billions of messages every single day. The amount of data was almost impossible to imagine. And Gmail was only the beginning, because while users were storing their conversations, Google was preparing to expand into something even bigger. Something people would carry with them everywhere they went. Something that would dramatically increase how much information could be collected. The smartphone. When Android launched, most people saw it as a competitor to the iPhone. A mobile operating system, a piece of software, nothing more. But Android changed everything, because for the first time, Google wasn't just helping people search the internet. Google was traveling with them, everywhere. The smartphone became one of the most powerful data-generating devices ever created. Location, movement, browsing history, app usage, search activity, purchases, photos, messages, voice commands. Every interaction created information, and Android quickly became the world's most widely used mobile operating system. Hundreds of millions of users became billions. Suddenly, Google wasn't only learning what people searched for, it was learning how they moved through the world, where they worked, where they shopped, where they traveled, how long they stayed, what routes they preferred, and when they were most active. Of course, many of these features existed because users wanted them. Navigation apps need location data. Weather apps need location data. Maps need location data. The exchange often seemed fair. Users received useful services. Google received information. But as Android expanded across the globe, the amount of information being generated became extraordinary. For the first time in human history, a single company could observe broad patterns of movement across entire populations. Not individual people sitting in a room watching screens, but massive data sets revealing how cities functioned, how traffic moved, how people traveled, and how society behaved. The scale was unlike anything the world had ever seen. And then Google introduced another tool that would push this even further: Google Maps. Google Maps seemed harmless. In fact, most people considered it one of the most useful tools ever created. Need directions? Open Maps. Looking for a restaurant? Open Maps. Trying to avoid traffic? Open Maps. It became so useful that many people stopped thinking about how it actually worked. Because, for Google Maps to guide you somewhere, it first needs to know where you are. And that's where things become fascinating. Every day, millions of people open Google Maps. The app records a starting point, a destination, a route, a travel time, and often, whether the user actually followed that route. One person's journey doesn't mean much, but billions of journeys? That's different. Over time, Google Maps became one of the largest collections of movement data ever assembled. The company could see traffic forming before drivers noticed it themselves. It could identify popular destinations, detect road closures, measure travel patterns, and continuously improve navigation. For users, the benefits were obvious: faster routes, better directions, real-time traffic updates. The system worked because millions of people were contributing information simultaneously, most without even realizing it. Then came a feature that surprised many users: Timeline. For people who enabled location history, Google Maps could show where they had been, not just today, not just this week, but sometimes years into the past. Restaurants visited, cities explored, airports passed through, hotels stayed at. Entire journeys displayed on a digital map. For some people, it felt amazing: a personal diary automatically created by technology. For others, it felt unsettling because suddenly they realized something. The website wasn't only helping them remember where they were, it already knew. And if Google Maps knew where people had been, what else might Google know? For years, most people viewed Google as helpful, a tool, a service, a company that made life easier. Then, something happened. People started discovering how much information they had accidentally left behind. Stories began appearing online, users downloading their Google data for the first time. And what they found surprised them: search histories stretching back years, old locations they had forgotten visiting, devices they no longer owned, photos they barely remembered taking, records of places they stopped at for only a few minutes, entire timelines of their lives. Some people were impressed, others were disturbed. One user reportedly discovered Google still knew about trips taken years earlier. Another found location records from places they had completely forgotten. Others realized their phones had quietly documented thousands of journeys. Again, none of this was necessarily secret. The information was often available inside account settings, but many people had never looked. And that's what made the discovery so powerful. For the first time, millions of users could actually see the scale of their own digital footprint, not as a concept, not as a warning, but as data, real data, generated by their own lives. The experience felt almost surreal. People could scroll backward through years of activity, years of searches, years of movement, years of habits, years of behavior. The internet had become a memory machine, one that often remembered more than the people using it. And suddenly, a new question emerged. If technology remembers everything, what happens when we forget? By this point, Google wasn't just a search engine. It wasn't just an email provider, and it wasn't just a navigation service. It had become an ecosystem. Search, Gmail, Android, Maps, YouTube, Chrome, Google Photos, Google Drive, Google Calendar, Google Docs, Google Assistant. Each service seemed independent. Each solved a different problem. But together, they created something extraordinary. A detailed picture of human behavior. Think about it. Search reveals questions. Gmail reveals communication. Maps reveals movement. YouTube reveals interests. Chrome reveals browsing habits. Photos reveal memories. Calendar reveals future plans. Android reveals daily activity. Individually, each piece looks harmless. Combined, they become incredibly powerful. For the first time in history, a company could understand broad patterns about billions of people simultaneously. What they watched, where they went, what they searched, what they purchased, what interested them, what worried them, what entertained them, what they planned to do next. Google often described this information as a way to improve services, to make recommendations better, to make navigation faster, to make search more useful, and to make advertising more relevant. But regardless of intent, the scale remained astonishing, because no previous organization had ever possessed access to so much information generated by so many people. Not governments, not corporations, not anyone. In previous generations, powerful institutions relied on surveys, interviews, census reports, market research, months of data collection. Google could observe trends in real time, Millions of searches, millions of movements, millions of interactions, every single day. And that's when many people realized something. Google wasn't simply organizing the world's information anymore. In some ways, it was beginning to understand the world's behavior. And that raised a difficult question. What happens when one company knows more about humanity than humanity knows about itself? The next chapter of this story may be even more important than the last, because data alone isn't the real story anymore. Artificial intelligence is. For decades, companies collected information. Now they can analyze it at a scale that was once impossible. Patterns become predictions. Predictions become recommendations. Recommendations influence decisions. And decisions influence behavior. The more advanced these systems become, the more valuable data becomes. Every search, every click, every location, every interaction becomes fuel for increasingly powerful algorithms. Supporters argue this creates better products, smarter assistants, more useful services, faster search results, better navigation, and more personalized experiences. Critics worry about something else: concentration of power. Because information is influence, and influence shapes the future. The question is no longer whether companies collect data. That question has already been answered. The question now is, how should that data be used? Who should control it? Who should benefit from it? And what protections should exist for ordinary people? These questions may define the next decade of technology. Because the future of the internet isn't just about websites anymore. It's about intelligence, prediction, and trust. In the end, Google didn't become one of the most powerful companies in history because it forced people to use its products. It became powerful because people found those products useful again and again, day after day, year after year. What began as a university research project evolved into something much larger. A system that helps billions of people find information, communicate, travel, work, learn, and navigate the modern world. But along the way, it also became one of the largest collections of human behavior ever assembled. Which brings us back to the original question: how much does Google actually know about you? The honest answer is surprisingly simple. Probably more than you think. And the next time you open a browser, search for something, or check directions on your phone, you might remember that every click tells a story, not just about the internet, but about you.